eye-opener, innovation without infrastructure. Whether intentional or not, this seems to be just one reason why America has lost its standing as a superpower. This is also just one reason why America will not and cannot regain its status as a unilateral world leader. As an example, I cite the threats that the United States leveled against China in regards to the manufacture of computer chips. When China manufactures the chips required for computers and cell phones and all electronics, threatening China with tariffs falls flat. For, if the United States cannot make those chips, the tariffs imposed will only translate into more expensive chips for citizens in the United States. And when the citizens of the United States have less money due to policies that funneled their wealth to a minority of rich people, the average American cannot afford the added burden that tariffs impose. As has been pointed out on this blog since Trump's first term as president, it makes no sense to threaten China and the world, for that matter, with tariffs when you have little to no means to manufacture the goods your tariffs target. While economists and analysts will decry how complicated tariffs and world economics are, it seems to me that the fundamental I just mentioned would be one simple, undeniable fact that should be considered before all of the layers of complication are piled on. Put in an even simpler way, I will reiterate my point as it pertains to China. You ready? China manufactures many of the products that Americans buy. America does not and cannot currently manufacture many of the products imported from China. Applying tariffs to the products imported from China raises the costs of those products for Americans whose money has been devalued through inflation. This inflation may have an organic aspect to it, but the bulk of it is man-made. Man-made due to the endless printing of US dollars, which cheapens the dollar, especially when those excess dollars are printed in the trillions, and especially when the majority of those excess dollars are given to the rich. As a sidebar, here is a short explanation and example as to why giving a majority of those excess US dollars is such a problem for the US economy. Let's say you have a group of 100 people in your village, and each person is given $1 initially. Every dollar has equal value because the dollars are distributed equally to every person in the village, and let's accept that $1 should be enough for each person to live off of for their entire life. Of course, this equal distribution will change as goods and services are exchanged for a penny here or a dime there, or for whatever that good or service is deemed worth. The value of every dollar has not changed, however, just the distribution has changed. Now you'll have some people who have more than $1 and some with less than $1, but those with less than $1 receive something worth the money they've spent. Now, let's say one of the people out of the 100 villagers earns enough to have $3 in their possession. They now have at least 3 times more money than everyone else, and we can consider them to have 2 times more money than they need for their lifetime. The original dollar plus the 2 extra dollars they earned. This is still an equitable system because regardless of the exchange of goods or services, each party got what they wanted in the end. No problem. That is until another $100 is added to the economy with nothing backing it. This would be like going off the gold standard as the US did in 1971. So another $100 is injected into the economy, but 50 of those dollars goes to the person who already has $3 or 3 times as much money as they would need in their lifetime. Now this economic system is imbalanced, unequal, and heading for instability. As for the first 2 descriptors, those are obvious. The third descriptor, the instability, however, is caused by the fact that the person who has $3 has no need to spend any of the extra $50 they've received, because they only needed $1 for their lifetime in the initial distribution, and now only need $2 for their lifetime, even though the value of every dollar was cut in half once the extra $100 was added to the economy. And because the person with $3 now has no need to spend more than $2 in their lifetime, the remainder of their wealth can be stored away or buried in the woods because they will never need to use it. As for everyone else, the value of their money has been cut in half by the introduction of the extra $100. So the original dollar that each one has at the beginning is now worth half as much as is whatever they had when the extra 100 was introduced. This is called inflation, and it is the outcome when you introduce more currency into the economy. As for those villagers who had less than $1, when the extra 100 was added to their economy, they now have only half of the money they need for their lifetime. Every consumer good they need now effectively costs them twice as much. But their wealth wasn't doubled, because the rich person, the person with $3, was given half or 50% of the extra 100 added to the economy. The other $50 was divided amongst the other 99 people of the village, so these 99 people each only received slightly more than 50 cents if the remainder was distributed equally to the 99 people. In this instance, even if a villager hadn't spent a single penny of their original dollar, they would still only have $1.50. Not enough, because to be able to afford the necessities of life, the 99 people would now need closer to $2 to sustain themselves for their lifetimes. And when more money is continually added to the economy and distributed as described previously, the rich person keeps getting a larger share of the newly introduced dollars. It becomes more and more difficult for the rest of the village to pay for everything. That is, unless the rich guy offers them credit and they go into debt. This is what has occurred in America and the world. Inflation has devalued everyone's wealth, but it doesn't impact those who have an excess because they have way more than they will ever need. As for everyone else, they need to borrow to subsidize their lives, and they pay the interest to the rich who provide them with credit. Now, if someone follows such a system to its logical conclusion, or close to final outcome, they will see that there will be a tipping point where the dollar becomes utterly useless to everyone except the rich, or the $3 person in my previous example. The liquidity is removed from the economy, which stagnates because far too few people have any money and no one can get credit, because the rich know that no one has any money, which makes such a system unsustainable. You get the instability that America faces as fewer Americans can afford anything, let alone more expensive goods due to tariffs on China. When consumers can't even afford the cheap crap that Walmart sells, your country is in trouble, especially when Walmart employs most of the people in your town because they put all competitors out of business in your town. You see the vicious cycle that develops? Or more accurately, the vicious spiral, the one that resembles the water being flushed down a toilet. So, back to the folly that American tariffs on Chinese goods represents. China not only manufactures the products that fewer and fewer Americans can afford, it provides a plurality, if not a majority, of the raw earth minerals that the world needs to manufacture so many consumer products. I won't get into why this is so. Let's just say mining and refining raw earth minerals is not an environmentally friendly operation. In the end, American threats of tariffs ring hollow. I imagine the following as being what the Chinese hear when Trump threatens them with tariffs. America is going to charge you more to import your products that we want, but don't make ourselves. This extra charge will be passed on to Americans who can't even afford the costs of those goods that America doesn't manufacture, but China does. And to top it off, America is going to do this even though it needs computer chips from China for its military equipment. Even though America hasn't won a war in over 5 decades, and to make certain China feels threatened by these tariffs, America is going to put tariffs on every country with which it does business, even though America has no means of manufacturing those goods either. And we can do this because America pays poverty wages for things like Uber drivers, and we have the best YouTubers who use each other's content and sell crap merchandise made in China. We don't need a manufacturing base to threaten those countries that manufacture everything we use, seems to be the rationale used by American leaders these days. America loves threatening the world with tariffs, sanctions, military interventions, whether it has leverage or more often not. I think the world is realizing this as the United States is becoming that party guest that everyone turns their back to whenever they approach. If you like the videos here and would like to see more, let your friends and family know about this website called Mike Sons Entertainment on YouTube. There are plenty of blogs, news, and websites reporting and complaining about our leaders and their failures. How many, however, are offering or even pointing to any solutions? The book Solutions, Enough Complaining, Let's Fix America by Chris Osman does, and it can be found on Amazon or at www.mikesonsentertainment.com. To find out other ways you're being screwed by your current leaders, check out the posts on this blog daily. Learn about the biggest and worst issues that America and its people face today. You can also check into this blog daily to hear about those issues that America and its people will face in the near and distant future. If, however, you would like to discover possible solutions to either mitigate the worst impacts of these issues or solutions to avoid them altogether, keep listening. The problems we face are not as complicated as so many leaders and news reports claim. They are man-made and are only claimed as complicated so those who are responsible can maintain control. For example, there is a persistent argument that moving government is like turning a cruise ship around. It is supposedly a long process that can only be achieved incrementally. While this may be true for laws and policies that benefit the majority of Americans, it does not seem to be so for that smallest of American minorities. When one examines the policies and laws that benefit that minority, known as the elite or the rich, the speed at which those laws are passed is exponentially faster. While most of us sit on the deck chairs waiting for the Titanic to avoid the myriad of icebergs of which we seem to continually run afoul, the elite ride comfortably in speedboats. If, according to the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal, why do the rich live quite different lives than the rest of us? Where is our speedboat? In 2018, Chris Osman wrote a book highlighting the problems humanity would face if more power, wealth, and control were funneled to a small group of individuals, groups, or organizations. In that book, Mr. Osman provides solutions, offered up from himself and others, to the inevitable problems we would all face. In it, he also provided a means for the public to analyze, compare, and contrast the words and deeds of those we've chosen to follow against our real-world experiences. To this end, Mr. Osman provides the means for readers to disseminate information as provided by their news sources of choice, their elected officials, and any other authority they choose to follow. The book, titled Solutions: Enough Complaining. Let's Fix America offers a means to hold leaders up, not just to a higher standard than is currently accepted, but to one that will improve lives. You can't innovate by putting the cart before the horse. Click the link below and get your copy of Solutions today.